Welcome to our CyberWise Chats, where we talk about the challenges of raising and teaching digital kids. I'm Diana Graber, author of Raising Humans in a Digital World and founder of CyberWise and CyberCivics. Join every episode with Dr. Pamela Rutledge, who's the director of the Media Psychology Research Center. Our always lively conversations tackle topics like cyberbullying, screen time, TikTok, and everything in between. We've got some great guests and promise each chat will give you the tips, tricks, and confidence you need to help kids use technology safely and wisely. So welcome, everyone. We're so happy to have you here today. Just let me get organized here, just a moment. All right, as people are coming in, we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome to our CyberWise chat, whether you're joining us today via the webinar or via the podcast. We are going to talk about TikTok today. Should it be banned? I'm Diana Graber, author of Raising Humans in a Digital World, here as always with Dr. Pamela Rutledge, who's the director of the Media Psychology Research Center. And we are so excited to welcome back Taylor Blatchford. It's been a year, we discovered, since she was with us last. She's such a great contributor to these chats. If you don't remember Taylor from last time, she is the founder of Text to Regret, a nonprofit organization that advocates for online responsibility by implementing internet safety curriculums in schools and youth programs. We're so happy because that curriculum is CyberCivics. So we've been working with Taylor for a long time on that. Thank you. All right, so we could not have timed today's chat any better. You probably know that just this morning, TikTok CEO Shou Chew testified before Congress for the first time as lawmakers renewed calls for the app to be banned in the US. He got grilled this morning, poor guy. He could hardly answer the many questions that were put forth to him, ranging everywhere from national security issues to privacy issues. And a lot of lawmakers brought up concerns regarding TikTok's impact on children. So I'm going to read you one quote. This is from Representative Frank Pallone. He said, "Research has found that TikTok's algorithms recommend videos to teens that create and exacerbate feelings of emotional distress, including videos promoting suicide, self-harm, and eating disorders." So that's a pretty harsh criticism in regards to TikTok's algorithm. We're going to talk about that first. A lot of people have referred to TikTok's algorithm as knowing you better than you know yourself. And also a lot of people have no idea how it works. So Pam, I am going to turn to you to explain what happens behind the curtain.
Well, I think it's important for people to understand that TikTok is really looking at a lot of things. And we had a really interesting conversation that Taylor chip in when it makes sense. But it really looks at not just what you watch, but what you like, what you put in the hashtags you use on your own content. And so it looks at all those things, but it can also access things in your scrapbook when you copy and paste, or if you move from TikTok to a website or you follow a link, it can go with you. Now, don't make TikTok out to be very sinister. Everyone does this, right? This is not just TikTok, but it can make you feel kind of weird if somehow they get you so well that you think, are they peeking in my bedroom window? But it's based upon your likes and your behavior and content analysis of what you're watching and what's trending.
Exactly. Oh, yes. I completely agree. I was just talking to both of you yesterday about how I think TikTok is the algorithm that is most accurate to my personal interests. My entire For You page is all things that I am very uniquely interested in at that particular moment in time. It's not even very broad. It's very specific, which is just fascinating compared to the other social media apps that are still doing something very similar, but TikTok seems to have a special knack for it.
Yeah, it adjusts quickly.
Yeah, and it was interesting because I was a little frustrated this morning watching the testimony of the CEO of TikTok because actually he didn't get to answer any of the questions. A lot of accusations were thrown at him with no answers. And I was curious, so I went to watch an interview with him elsewhere, and he described the algorithm so beautifully. Number one, he said, it's just math. Number two is, it's based on your behavior. So wanting to give people the stuff they like, they observe us in so many different ways that a lot of other apps do, but maybe they do it best. How long we watch, how quickly we move to the next video, what our behaviors are, who we like, how we share. So, I mean, I think the bottom line here is that capacity to do that is on every single app. And so much focus right now is on TikToks. And perhaps, that's, we can make sense of it because it's such a good algorithm. It really, really works.
Well, I'd like to just, a little soapbox here about the congressional hearing, right? I would hope that the congressional hearing would be about learning about the app, but it was an entire violation of our judicial system. He was guilty before he had any chance to present evidence. They would ask questions and then not let him answer. And so for those of us, as you say, Diana, who were interested in his voice and how he was going to explain things, even knowing it was a political arena, it was incredibly frustrating and disappointing. And it made the Congress people look bad. And I mean, unless you're a total technophobe, you lose confidence in the people who are supposed to be using judgment to make these decisions.
Right. And so I just want to take a step back just for 1 second, because I think maybe some people joining us today may not entirely understand how TikTok works. And Taylor, you probably know how it works much better than either of us do. So can you just take a moment and explain that?
Yes. So I would say there's really two groups of people who are primarily on TikTok. I feel like there's the creators that use the app and actually push the content out. And then there's a lot of people like myself who don't really create videos, but are very active users and tend to watch for a certain length of time every day. And if you've never been on TikTok before, it's designed pretty simply. There are two primary pages that most users spend their time on. There's the For You page, which I would argue is where most users spend their time because that's where you find the new content and that's really where the algorithm gets you. And then there's another page where you can see the content made by people you are following and you made the active choice to follow them and see their content.
Right. And I think if you have not used TikTok, I really encourage you to do it because just looking at it, you'll kind of understand what draws kids to it. Number one, it's compelling because it's people putting out all these videos day after day on all these different topics. So it's really hard to look away, especially if you're a kid. So I think it's really important for parents to try it. And at least that will have you, on the same page as your kid to be able to discuss, hey, what do you like? What are you watching? What's happening on TikTok? So I don't think we can miss it wholeheartedly.
Oh, absolutely. And I think if you haven't been on TikTok and you go on, you're going to think, why would people watch this? And it's really important to remember that especially young people are very socially focused. And so they are just curious about other people doing stupid things, other people doing interesting things they don't know about. But these things that look pointless to a lot of us, I have real value just in terms of observing other people and seeing how many different kinds of people and tastes and points of view there are in the world. It's in that sense, it's just a wonderful laboratory for humanity.
Right. And we were talking earlier about some of the communities that people find themselves in TikTok. And one of the biggest ones is called Book Talk. And it's all about the books you read and what you like and recommending books to others. 70 million people belong to this. And they say that it's gotten kids interested in reading again. So, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's some really nice communities. Taylor, you were sharing some with us as well that you like.
Yes, I'm on Book Talk as well. And I was telling Diana and Pam that it's kind of nice because it's like the perfectly compiled recommendation list. If there's a book or a genre that I'm interested in, but really haven't taken the time to look into yet, TikTok will recommend it to me. So yeah, Book Talk is great. And there's also lots of other communities that just help people find shared interests and they can hear different perspectives on it and they can learn different things about it. And overall, that is one of the more positive elements.
Yeah.
There's also been a big push among some mental health practitioners because so many young people are on TikTok and because there's been so much concern about anxiety and depression post-pandemic and that isolation that they've pointedly provided tools and strategies for dealing with things like anxiety and depression. And if you're using TikTok, please make sure these are bona fide clinicians and not just people who think they're smart. But if they have, a link to a website that shows their credentials, there's some wonderful resources, and some of them have millions of followers who really value these techniques to how to deal with depression and how to manage your mood.
Yeah, but I want to kind of push back on that a little bit, because while there is a lot of great information, specifically mental health, et cetera, a lot of misinformation on this app too, which is understandable because you think about who's making its, watchers are making the content. A lot of the people using TikTok are very young, so they're probably not going to be experts in anything yet. So there's been legitimate studies that have shown that, up to 20% of the information you find on TikTok will be misinformation. And it's really hard for young people to tell the difference. Much of this information, unfortunately, is in the medical area, which could be very damaging to young people if they are given information that's dangerous. So, and this is not unique to TikTok. Misinformation, unfortunately, is on all of these apps. So just another thing to be aware of.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest lessons I think that you do in cyber civics is helping kids understand how to validate information, how to question where it comes from, and how to figure out is it any good or not. Because I mean that's hard for all of us, and it's important for all of us. It isn't just a kid thing, right? It's trying to make sense out of this massive flow of information that we have. So good news, we have information, and bad news, we have to figure out what's useful in it.
And again, it's not just TikTok, it's everything we use. We should not just watch something and believe it, but ask ourselves those questions that we teach the kids on,
including television.
Right. Who's the author? What's the evidence? What do other people say about the information? All of that are things that we should do every time we look at anything online.
Yeah, I completely agree. This isn't necessarily a medical example, but I know recently something that had a lot of misinformation going around about it was the Idaho murders recently.
Oh, Lord.
In Moscow, Idaho. And first of all, that's so devastating, so tragic. But all of these TikTokers were making videos about it and commenting on it. And there was only so much information coming from the Idaho Police Department themselves, which is the most accurate information that everyone should follow. But all of these people who were coming up with conspiracy theories were presenting it as if it was facts or if they had sleuthed it out and solved it themselves. And it was very frustrating for me because I'm 23 and I saw people, even in my age, people in college, young adults, not really understanding that it was a conspiracy and that was potentially misinformation and not fact.
And damaging in that it used up police resources because they have to check out leads to make sure something's real, and also because it resulted in the terrible bullying and doxing of a woman that somehow some TikTok psychic had decided was the culprit behind the entire thing. So verifying information is so important.
Yeah. And Taylor, let me ask you a question. Do you use social media apps like TikTok to get news? And do you think that's typical for people in your age range?
I would say it's typical. Personally, no, I don't use TikTok. Every now and then, maybe a news story will come up. I would say pop culture news stories are more likely to come up on my TikTok, which I don't mind because it's pop culture, but nothing super stressful or nothing too serious usually comes up on my For You page regarding current events, but I know for other people it does.
Yeah. And we were talking yesterday about how you find TikTok really different from Instagram. Let's talk about that a little bit, because I think people forget that all these social networks have their own unique personality. And I think what you were talking about yesterday really speaks to why kids are drawn to TikTok.
Yes, I think a lot of young people are drawn to TikTok because it's very relatable. And I think a lot of that has to do with the story times and a lot of the fun dances, or there's a trend that's been going around recently called Get Ready With Me's, where people will just sit down with their phone and do their makeup and share a story or talk about their day. So I know something about TikTok that I really appreciate is how relatable it is and how natural it is, it seems. And people aren't really afraid to be themselves on the app, where I feel like Instagram, for example, is still kind of hanging on to a lot of that perfectionist ideal. You aren't as authentic on Instagram as I think you would be on TikTok. So I know I've really appreciated seeing people connect with communities better because they can actually relate to the people on the other side of the screen on TikTok.
Yeah. Pam, don't you think that's sort of the way social media is going these days?
Well, I do, and I think authenticity is a big draw, or has always been a big part of social media because it allowed regular people to talk to each other. But I agree with Taylor that the real hallmark of TikTok is that it is just a moment in time that someone captures turning on their phone. And I know people worry a lot about filters, but even on TikTok, people will make fun of filters. So they
Yes.
understand that it's sort of honesty and authenticity are really what's going to get them engagement and followers if that's their goal. Because if you're trying to get information, you want people to believe you, and the ones that are probably the most troublesome in terms of parents are probably the minority on TikTok because they're the ones that are artificial.
Yeah. And what's interesting is, Instagram is trying to be sort of like TikTok with their reels, but they do have a real different feel than the ones that you see on TikTok. And I mean, I'm not even the target market for either of these things. And I can tell a big difference between the videos I see on Instagram and what I see on TikTok. Would you agree
Let's
with
say,
Taylor?
go ahead, Taylor.
Oh, yes, I do agree with that. I was just thinking TikTok, I can go on and for sure get a belly laugh. If
Yeah.
I just want to laugh and just want to smile for a second, TikTok is great, at least in that regard. And then on Instagram, a lot of the same videos and a lot of the Instagram reels are TikTok videos that were just downloaded and posted
Right.
on
Right.
Instagram.
Exactly.
So they have a very similar nature, and a lot of the creators have both TikTok and Instagram. So they
Yeah.
just post
So
it
I'm
simultaneously.
going to interrupt you for just a moment on that, because I think that's another important thing for people to realize is the creativity tools on TikTok are kind of off the charts. Would you agree with that? That it makes it really easy for people to create. And I think that's part of the allure too, and why you see it on other apps. Am I correct in that respect?
I think so. Yes. Yes, because I know personally, I've done this before. I will have the goal of posting an Instagram reel because that's where maybe my audience is for something I need to get across. However, I don't think Instagram reels are very easy to make videos on.
Right.
They
Right.
make the audio very complicated. And I'm also just not the most tech savvy person ever. So that should be acknowledged too. But I've always found Instagram reels to just be very difficult to make. But then TikTok, it's so easy. It's so easy. It's much easier to work with the audio. It's much easier to get clips together. And then I can just download it and take the watermark off and then put it on Instagram. And it is so much more simple.
Yeah.
Well, I
All
saw.
math, like the guy said on the interview I watched this morning, it's all math. They do
Well, it
really
is
good
all
on
math,
TikTok.
but but people who are successful in TikTok are creating, as we talked about yesterday, within the context of TikTok, recognizing that sort of authentic social nature. There was an interesting example of a music group who were posting, clips of their music videos on TikTok, and it wasn't really taking off. They started making videos of themselves observing people observing their music or observing people lip syncing to their music. And so there's, these guys up at the top and then whoever they're watching down at the bottom. It totally took off because people were totally enchanted by watching people respond to each other.
Yeah.
I will say, I like that TikTok has brought a lot of good music to the forefront that a lot of people would not have acknowledged. And a lot of groups that haven't been popular for some time have come back because of TikTok sounds. So that's kind of cool on that vein.
And I want to say one thing that I failed to say earlier. For those of you who are watching this as a webinar, please, any questions that come up, put them in the chat box. I will take a look at it and try to address them. So sorry I didn't mention that earlier. We're kind of getting lost here in how exciting and TikTok is. If you're a kid, you can create things that's fun. You see people like you. All of that is great. I don't want to gloss over the very real security and privacy concerns there are with the app. So I think we need to spend a few minutes addressing that. And especially the national security concerns. Already, the app has been banned from government-issued devices. Real concerns here, don't you think, Pam?
Well, there's definite concerns, and all of the concerns so far are theoretical or hypothetical. There is no direct evidence that these things are going on. However, the risk of this amount of data and the ability to track people based on location is a very serious concern. But what I would like to point out is that if they ban TikTok tomorrow from the earth, within 24 hours, there would be a new app, probably not owned by China, that everyone migrated to. So we have to be very careful about what it is we're trying to fix, right?
Yeah.
So if the national security thing is a very real problem, then that needs to be addressed. But we need to separate out some of these things and not just throw it all into one big bucket. I think the other place where national security plays a role is the intentional spread of misinformation that can cause, social divides and antagonize different groups or different populations or spread misbeliefs. So, there's sort of two levels of that, but it's, as you say, a very real concern.
Yeah, it is. But for me, I'm glad that this is out. I hope people are actually watching the hearings and reading the news that comes out of this, because I think what it brings to our attention is that these concerns that are being brought up, especially about data mining and all that, it's not just TikTok. These are concerns across all the apps. And I feel like this poor guy's getting, grilled over things that we should have addressed years ago. There should be universal privacy rules across all the apps about the protection of personal data and what they can do with it, if they can sell it, et cetera. So if nothing else, this is bringing this to our awareness.
I wish they
I
would
don't know.
spend a little more time looking at how you control a device from the user side. Because TikTok actually has better privacy and security settings than Instagram and Facebook or Meta, whatever we're calling them, or YouTube.
Right.
So it allows you to take much more control, establish different sort of barriers between you and the general public, what can be tracked, what can be, targeted. So we're losing something here if we're not saying, do we know how this works?
Yeah. Taylor, do you think kids care, at your age? Does anyone care about their privacy being hopefully not sold, but owned by somebody else, and what's done with it, and what kind of information they track on you? Is that in your concern?
Yes, I do think a lot of people in my generation are concerned about it, but I think it's a double-edged sword in many ways, because you can't participate on a lot of these social networking sites without accepting the terms. And so you might know, okay, yay, my information is going to be taken and potentially sold, but I cannot participate on this app if that permission is not given.
Yeah.
So I think we're unfortunately becoming very accustomed to it. I think we just know that our information is floating out there.
Yeah.
It's sort of an exchange. You're paying with your information for the use of the app.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of these apps are, yes, free, but then the companies, you two might know more about this than me, but a lot of the companies are able to create funds through selling that information and targeting the ads in a more specific way.
Well, Diana, talk about your kids, of how they reacted when you asked them if TikTok should be banned.
So I've been really torn on this topic, because I get what kids love about it. I kind of like TikTok. It's entertaining. So I was teaching a group of sixth graders, which are generally between 12 and 13 years of age. And I just, as an aside, I said, what do you guys think about a potential ban of TikTok? And I swear to God, this blew my mind. Every kid in the room is like, oh, it should definitely be banned. And I'm like, what? But you guys use it, right? Oh yeah, but it's terrible, Mrs. Graber. You need to look at what's on there. I said, well, give me some actual reasons why you would support a ban. And I wrote them down. I wrote a blog post about this, and I actually quoted what the kids said. Let's see if I can find it here. Bear with me. Okay. There are so many young kids on TikTok, and the stuff they are watching is just not good for them to see. These are 12 and 13-year-olds saying this to me. You get exposed to really dangerous and unhealthy trends on TikTok. Did you know TikTok can use your videos however they want to? You give all your information away on TikTok. And then this was my favorite quote. A young girl said to me, Mrs. Graber, I have 2 words for you: age verification. And I thought, well, you have to be 13 to be on the app. And then every kid in the room just started laughing. So to my mind, that's sort of like the bottom line here. It's just this hilarious thing that we require kids to be 13 to be on these apps, but yet every kid in the world knows that they can simply lie about their age in order to access them. So
yeah, once you hit about 3rd grade math, you're good.
Exactly. So, a couple of things here. There is age gating on these apps. A lot of times they'll hold back really horrible content from people between 13 and 18. But the kids I know that lie about their ages think it's really funny to make themselves 87 or 67, right? But they're not affected at all by that age gating. So, and again, a lot of this goes back to parental control. Like, we should know what our kids are signing up for, what age they're putting in there. Are they old enough to use the apps? Until and if real age verification ever happens, which is a whole nother discussion, I think it's really the onus is back on families to help protect your children.
As it always was with television and radio. I mean, it is asking a lot. One of the things that they went after too for was bad content that you haven't managed to catch. But kids are very creative in how they use content. So, and this coding is not a new thing, right? It's as soon as people learned to write, they probably invented secret codes so that they could keep secrets. So they just use different words that make it past the algorithms that block negative content. So you have to train kids to be smart about these technologies.
You said something, and I wanted to mention this before I forget, but kids are really good about getting around everything, right? That's just no matter how old they are or what app they are on. I hear about kids on Roblox, the way they get around the moderators is amazing. But so we've talked in the past about challenges on TikTok. We have a whole webinar we did on that, but there's a new challenge called the Flash Challenge. And in it, the kids get around the moderation for nudity, because nudity is not allowed on TikTok. And the way they get around it is they flash themselves, but they show the reflection on a TV screen or in a spoon or something of the nudity. And somehow or other that bypasses the moderation for nudity on TikTok. So just an example, you can try to ban things. Kids are going to find their way around it. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, well, if they ban TikTok, it'll be interesting to see how quickly the black market on TikTok apps emerges.
Yeah.
Yes, because if it only gets blocked in the United States and it would still be accessible in other countries, I wonder if there would be a way to, I don't know, get your.
There would. We'll just say there would, right?
Yes, there would be. I don't know what that would be, but because once again, like I said, I'm not very tech savvy, but yes, there absolutely would be.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about, I'm looking at my notes here, and we haven't talked about the overuse. So just a few numbers here, because I didn't share this earlier, but there's 150 million TikTok users in the US. Did you guys know that? Yes. There's a lot of people. 1 in 3 people evidently use TikTok. Couple other numbers here. Adults spend an average of 56 minutes a day on the app. Kids spend an average of 99 minutes a day on TikTok. That's a lot of time.
Hour and a half, yeah.
What is it that keeps you enthralled with this app, Taylor? I think we all know, but I mean, when you go on it, do you have a hard time walking away? Is it the scroll? Is it the types of videos they send you?
As much as I hate to admit it, yes, sometimes I do have a hard time walking away, just because a lot of it is so entertaining. And I know TikTok has different time features. So for example, you can watch like 30-second videos, or creators can make 3-minute videos. And those are the ones that really suck up the most time. And a lot of people, when they're sharing stories, they'll have multiple parts. So if it's a 10-part story and each part is 3 minutes, then there's 30 minutes spent on just one story on the app, which is crazy. But I think, once again, going back to the algorithm, I know we finished talking about that and we wrapped it up, but it really does play a part in how long somebody can get sucked into the app, because they just keep on showing you content that they know you are going to enjoy.
Well, it's designed to be very appealing to the human brain. I mean, the content that you care about, it's very social, it's chunked. I thought that your example is really interesting of taking a story, because if you say, oh, the story's only 3 minutes, and then 3 minutes, and then 3 minutes, so it's a way of sort of rationalizing to your brain how you're going to just do something for a little bit, but it's that continual movement and the continual showing of people's faces that makes it very compelling.
Yeah. And, they're unrolling in the next couple of weeks. They're going to start something where every account belonging to a user age 18 will automatically be set to a 60-minute daily screen time limit. They'll be prompted to enter a passcode in order to continue watching the app, making them really think about whether they want to go over that 60 minutes. So I don't know if that's going to work. I mean, Instagram does that. I get that on Instagram and I just ignore it. So
I was going to say, I get that too, and I ignore it.
Yeah, it's hard to make people be mindful if they don't want to be mindful. So it's a great device if you say, okay, if that happens, I'm going to take this moment and really think about what I'm doing. Would it make any difference, Taylor, if there was a message like, is this how you want to be spending the next hour? Right? If it asks you a question, or would you quit reading? You'd probably quit reading it. I mean, not you personally, but everyone.
I think it would probably be more people just stopping and moving forward on the app. I think maybe if there was more parental involvement, say if only the parents knew that passcode, well, then they have to go to their parents to get them to unlock more time. But a lot of kids, especially between 13 and 18, would know how to set a passcode themselves when they get that message and then unlock it when they want to spend more time. And so there's lots of loopholes with it for sure.
I don't see that that's going to do much, but
I don't think so either.
Before we end up, there was one thing I wrote down that I really wanted to mention because it's something that I think about a lot in regards to TikTok is that in China, the kids get an entirely different TikTok. You guys know about this. Their TikTok is all science related videos, educational videos only. They don't get any of the entertaining stuff that US kids get. And they're actually, I can't remember what the time, maybe you know, Pam, it's limited to, I think, an hour a day max for any kid, no matter what. There's no passcode.
They've been very aggressive about technology use. Yeah, and they use TikTok to promote their cultural values. Yeah. And since, of course, they aren't they don't allow diversity. So it's very much from the top down, this is our culture.
Yeah. So
That's interesting. And it makes me wonder if that same strategy on a more serious note could be used for certain messages in the United States or other countries who use the app on their networks.
Yeah, it remains to be seen. A lot to talk about. So I don't want to go over the half hour, but I do want to just quickly mention to anyone here, if you're interested, go to TikTok and look at their family center. They have really great safety things that you can go through with your child. It does require you to have TikTok on your own phone because you pair it with your child in order to do a lot of things like look at their screen time, control who they talk to, all of that. So, these companies make these things and it makes me sad that parents don't know about it or use it. So I would really suggest that you take a look at that.
Yeah, but keep the app closed if you're not using it because it can't read other things if it is not open. So if it's open and you're using it, great. But if it's just hanging out on your phone, although I had to teach my husband yesterday how to close apps on his phone, but these things happen. But yeah, just be aware that it isn't the end of the world that you've entered this on your device. Just be mindful of how you're using it.
Right. And the other thing, I do this in cyber civics, it doesn't hurt to have your child actually read the privacy policy of the apps they're going to sign up for. There will be things in there that will shock them that they should shock you too. But, go in with full understanding of what it is you're giving in away exchange for what you're getting.
Yes, I agree with both of you. I think read the terms, look at all the safety elements, and I think just be with your child and understand what they're actually seeing on the app because you can't understand what they might be exposed to on the app if you're not on the app yourself, actually learning about it.
You might be shocked. I don't know. All right. So we are going to end today differently. We are going to end with everyone saying whether they think TikTok should be banned or not. So what's your takeaway on that, Pam?
Well, I don't have enough information about the national security. And if the national security thing is a meaningful problem, then yes, and definitely on, sort of government institutional things. From a social point of view, no, because you're not going to solve the problem. We need to figure out what it is that the problems that we want to solve and not just hold the beach ball underwater because there's going to be another app, another way of getting around it. And if we haven't taught kids how to navigate this digital space, we're not protecting them from anything by banning one app or another. So I call it a qualified no.
How about you, Taylor?
My answer is pretty similar to Pam's. I'm going to say if there is a national security risk, I would say yes. I think we should create a different means of enjoying that form of entertainment that we enjoy on TikTok. But if there happens to be no national security risk, then I think it should stay. And I just hope that we can figure out ways to keep everybody safe and to make sure that kids aren't exposed to any information that they shouldn't be exposed to.
Yeah, I want to wiggle out of answering this one because honestly, I go back and forth between, depending on the day of the week. The national security concerns, I get it. That's a whole different issue. But I want to put that aside and just look at kids. And gosh, like a lot of these apps, they start out with such a great idea, like let kids be creative and share creativity and learn new things. And that's awesome. But on every app, not just TikTok, that seems to get out of control. And all of a sudden there's stuff that you don't want your kids seeing because they're too young. And also they're on it too long because it's too compelling. So I feel like we need to fix that across the board, not just on TikTok. We need to look at those addictive features and find out what's appropriate for kids and also determine what kind of information we should be collecting and what we should do with it. All of that is a really important conversation that we need to have about every app. So a lot of work to be done. In the meantime, what we do is educate kids to protect themselves. So I hope that you will contact us to find out about cyber civics. Taylor, I'm so grateful to you,
thank you.
Going out there and sharing that with other schools and children, because I think in the meantime, while we wait for regulation, while we wait for things to happen, we can equip kids with their own skills.
Yeah, we have to.
Doing it.
The only solution. And Pam, thank you again for joining us. And next time we are going to talk about the biggest thing that parents ask us about, which is screen time. That seems to be everyone's biggest concern. So we're excited. We've got some really great guests that we'll be announcing soon. And it will take place in almost exactly a month. April 20th, I believe, is the date, Thursday at noon. Watch our spaces and we'll be promoting that very soon. So thank you both again.
Yep, my pleasure.
All right. You guys have a great day.
You too. Take care.